Hello and welcome. I'm Jay Coleman and this is Cameron Mercer, and we're apartment brokers here at Norris & Stevens. And today we're going to be talking about some significant trends that we saw here in Portland and down in Salem over the last year. So let's get right into it. Cam, what happened with vacancies here in Portland last year?
Yeah, so for 2024, the vacancy rate went up year over year, about 1.5%. And that's due to approximately 7,600 units being delivered last year, and about 5,800 of those units were absorbed. So it left a bit of a supply overhang for 2025. Currently, Class A is experiencing about 10% vacancy right now, and actually studios of all the unit types are about 11% vacancy right now. Class B and C properties are in the 5 to 6% vacancy range. And looking at our Norris & Stevens managed portfolio here in Portland, we're under 5%, excluding any lease ups going on right now.
Okay, so what's happening with rents here in Portland?
Market rents have been relatively flat year over year. We are expecting them to come back here in the second half of 2025, but the best performers right now are in the suburbs, and that's been a trend for the last few years.
Okay. What about construction?
It's an interesting topic. There's not a lot going on right now. Currently, we're looking at about 2,000 units in the development pipeline for this year, which is the lowest it's been since 2010.
Okay.
And that's due to a lot of different factors, but elevated construction interest rates right now, labor and materials are still very high. Those factors just are not going to work for a lot of developers.
Okay. So let's talk about a couple of sale comps from last year. Here in Portland, the Southeast 11th and Tenino apartments sold in November. This is a 38-unit property traded for $8.15 million, which puts it at about $214,000 a unit. This was bought by SKB from a local developer, and it's about 2 years old. This is basically where we're seeing buildings of this age trade at around $215,000 a unit, high 5, low 6 caps. And the interesting thing about this transaction was it was on market for over 500 days. So it took quite a while to close. Another good comp for Portland last year was the Alturas Foes townhomes out in Beaverton. This is a 65-unit property that traded at $5.425 million, which puts it at about $83,000 a unit, which is an extremely low price per unit, one of the lowest we've seen in a long time. This was bought by FPA Multifamily from a local investor. Obviously a value add deal. FPA is going to put some money into this and really try to boost the value of those units. This is a 1969 building, and it traded in April of last year. Okay, so now that we've heard about Portland, let's talk a little about Salem. What happened with vacancies down in Salem, Cam?
Salem did pretty well last year. They absorbed about 840 units. In comparison to the last 10 years, that's well above the normal absorption rate. Class A, there's quite a few properties in lease up, so the vacancy rates for those are 6 to 7.5 right now. B and C properties are in that 4.5 to 5.5 range right now. Salem's doing pretty well. The Norris & Stevens managed property portfolio right now is under 5% across the board, excluding any lease ups.
So what's happening with rent growth down there?
Yeah, rents, they rose about 1.5% last year, so it wasn't a blockbuster year for rent growth. However, if you look at the last 5 years, we've had about 4% annual rent growth. So Salem's doing pretty well rent growth wise. We've noticed in the north and south parts of Salem, those areas are in particular are looking to grow the most for 2025.
What about construction?
Yeah, construction, there's about 1,100 units under development right now, which represents about 3.5% of the total inventory. Similar to Portland, Salem is experiencing erratic construction starts, and we'll see where it goes here in the next year or two, but still a good amount of units under development right now.
Great. Okay. Well, let's go over a couple of Salem sale comps from last year. The Harmona Heights apartments, 42 units out in Salem, sold in July. This sold for $10.5 million, which is $250,000 a unit. So it's a pretty healthy price per unit for a brand new property. It was sold by a local developer to a local investor, and it was right at a 6 cap. This is a 42-unit property, so pretty good size, and 250,000 markers, definitely pretty high for a new product there. Another notable sale down in Salem was the Falcon View Apartments. This is an 88-unit apartment building that traded for $12.47 million, which puts it at about $142,000 a unit, which is a pretty great price for this age building. It's built in 2000. This sale happened in May, and it's definitely a value add play. So it's some deferred maintenance that needs to be taken care of, but this is also a great buy for this investor. So now that we've talked about what happened last year in 24, let's talk about what we're looking forward to in 2025.
Yeah, so I think we've hit the low point in transaction activity last year, and that's due to a few factors. But one, we saw a good amount of price drop in the previous years, and so last year was really 1% on the price index. We're expecting a better year this year as far as transactions go, more transactions. Interest rates, they appear to be stable right now, is what projections are at the moment. I think our silver lining or theme for 2025 is all of the loans that were made in 2020. Those are coming due, and a lot of those people are going to probably have to bring cash to the table to refinance because their rates are so much less than where we're at today. We're going to be watching that very closely.
Well, if you have any questions about what you heard today, feel free to reach out to Cameron or I, and we'd be happy to go over the details with you. And thanks for watching.